And welcome back. We are here for another episode on the divine ethereal beings. And in this one, we are going to talk about how our thoughts literally create our reality. This can be a little bit mind-bending in a few different ways, but I find it's an extremely fun topic to think about and talk about because the more you start to understand how it works, the more I feel like everybody goes back and starts reviewing life. Like, how did that happen? How did this happen? But it makes a lot of sense when you actually know how the process is working, when your thoughts are creating your own reality. And so that's why I feel like too, a lot of people will say that's why everybody's on their own journey, or that's why some people's perceptions can be so different from one person to the next, or you can watch the same show and people have two completely different views of what happened in that show. And this is stemming a lot from, our thoughts creating our reality, but also our beliefs that are created from our thoughts. So I'm excited to do this one because I feel like I've been wanting to do this one for a while. I've done a couple take clips of of things like that on past things and spoken into certain pieces even on my other channel, but this one feels like it's going to be a good fun conversation between the two of us. So
Yeah, well, and I think immediately I can feel like there's this, well, what creates our thoughts, right? Like, okay, our thoughts create our reality. What creates our thoughts and what creates our beliefs, right? Like, you can get in this rabbit hole and this hamster wheel in this discussion. And it's like, you just like put it on pause for a minute, right? Like there's a lot of educational pieces that can go behind this. Like maybe the first thing to tell people is like the science is out there that actually backs this up. Like
yes.
we are not talking about some woo thing here. Like this is neuroscience, this is behavioral psychology, this is proven information that is out there that you can go research. And um, so it's such an exciting time to live in, right? Like, even to know that our brain does not know the difference between imagination and reality, like, that's mind boggling.
And I constantly tell people that when I have done psychic guidance or readings or stuff like that, and I find people they feel really stuck, like it's almost impossible for them to think that something could change. Because when you feel so cemented in, like I get it. And the money topic is usually a big one for all of us when it comes to feeling like that cemented in belief or the belief that, it just can't change. That is something I always do. I will actually tell people, okay, and either walk them through it or explain exactly that your brain doesn't know the difference between what's in your imagination and what's in reality. And one of my favorite ones to use is if I put you in a race car in your mind right now and told you to live out that race car track, and you're driving that and the adrenaline comes up and well, I mean, adrenaline for some of us, right? It might be fear for others if it's not really your thing, but it all is the same thing. And I said, if I actually went and put you in that race car now and told you to do it in physical reality, you would have the exact same reactions. Because again, that's been proven in science. They have done that exact thing. They've put people through the race car simulation in the mind, and then they've actually put them in the physical reality to do the same thing. And their results are almost completely identical. And that is the coolest, the coolest thing that anybody could actually accept and realize that this is actually how it works. And,
Yeah,
and the fact that everything's thought of twice, right? You've had the thought twice. It's
right.
comes here first and then it happens in the actual physical reality. So
Yeah, this is such a juicy topic. There's so many paths that want to happen right now, right? And it's like, I mean, because we could go into like, okay, so what's going on in dreams, or like astral travel, like all of these pieces and what is the reality. And like you could argue that we're in the walking dream, that we're awake, like we're
absolutely. That's the other part of this. And I think where I'm being guided more to probably is to say our physical reality. We can focus more on like how physical reality is created from thoughts in this particular episode. We will definitely do an episode though that is a little bit more out there when it comes to like the dreams, the astral travel, some galactic stuff as well, just because there is a lot of branches to this. And I think that in this one, because of where we're at in the world right now with everything changing and everybody trying to, feel like a lot of many people feel like there's something better for them, right? And I think that's where I feel like I'm probably more drawn to speaking into, is like how to actually create that for yourself and how to get your physical reality to change. And then we will do all those other fun topics at another
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, well, and I think to the point with the physical reality, like when you become aware of this information, if this is new information for you, and then you start tuning into where your mind takes you at various times in the day as you're going through your day, or whatever your life experience is, when you start tuning into your thoughts, it can really be like a holy crap moment.
Totally. Oh gosh, yeah. Like I'm just thinking back to like all my moments, and I'm like, yeah, that, and that's the other piece of this. Again, like when you start actually thinking about your thoughts creating reality. Now there's go with the happier aspects, I guess, first, because they'll be easy to look at than maybe some of the other heavier things that have happened in your life, or those situations or something rather there. Um, because again, it's going to bring up the feels, and not everybody likes to feel. So but to do the analyzing thing, it is very funny that you say that, because I'm like, I'm even having moments now that they're flashing back at me and being like, oh yeah, remember this, remember this, remember this. And it was sometimes even just daydreaming at work, right? Like I just didn't want to be at work. So I started daydreaming. But the things you daydream about too is usually stuff you actually want in your life.
Yeah.
And there's this whole aspect of that as well that people don't even realize, that your subconscious mind, or your higher self, or whatever you want to go with on that aspect of it, is trying to show you what you would like to enjoy or experience while you're here. And daydreaming is a big part of that.
Yeah, and I know this episode is on your thoughts creating your reality, but how often do we speak our thoughts?
Very
When we
rarely.
know we're doing it and when we don't know we're doing it, and it's like the further extension of your word being your wand, because like there's some aspect of you need to become aware of your thoughts, like pretty much at all times. Like that's part of the practice, or like you called it a habit, of like starting to
Mm-hmm.
get into this, right? It's like, and being willing to surrender into like whatever your thoughts are without judgment or making them right or wrong, and understanding where they come from. And I think anybody living now will definitely has heard about the programming out there, and how we're, in the world or growing up or whatever, and understanding like all of that is influencing your thoughts intentionally.
Absolutely. And the other piece is to remember too is like when we're children, there's different aspects of where our brain is more awakened, or our consciousness kind of starts to come about self. And so there's different aspects to that, obviously, growing up, and it's naturally how it's meant to be. But also remembering that, like, if you're finding some beliefs about yourself or about the world, or things that you don't really necessarily want to believe in or you wish to change, or you're like, why would I ever believe that? It just seems so ass backwards in a way. You can't have guilt about it, right? Because it's not your fault. We all come into the world with a set plan to experience things and learn things and have those beliefs kind of set upon us, so we can break them eventually for ourselves as we get older. We as children don't have that choice. I mean, we're all kind of under the loot of our guardians or your parents or whoever was watching you, right? It's not really your choice at that point in time being a child, but it does become your choice when you get older, because you don't have to continue walking down that path if you don't want to. Oh, they just dropped something so interesting to me too. Did you ever read, or did anybody ever read the research that was done about adopted children and how they would inherit the family genetic diseases or things like that? So there's this research that was done upon adopted children. And even though they knew that they were adopted, most of the kids in the research knew that they were adopted, still would somehow, at some point in their life, often inherit the family genetic genes of diseases. So certain cancers, things like that, that were genetically passed down, they were inheriting and they were adopted children. So how is that even possible, right? If they don't have the same genetics and it's supposed to be this inheritance thing, they were still getting the exact same
Wow.
type of family disease that had carried through. And that just goes to show you the beliefs and thought process put inside someone's else body will actually contribute and make that happen. So the body believes that's a family inheritance of a disease. Body goes, cool, okay, I guess we can make that happen then, because if that's what you believe is going to come down the line, even though you're adopted, we can still make that happen for you if that's what you're believing is going to happen.
Well, and that's such a good, like, foundational proof of like how the opposite can be true too. Like, it doesn't matter how you've been programmed or what your family has been. You do have a choice. It's that, I think Bruce Lipton calls it epigenetics, where it's like
Yes.
your thoughts influence your genes. You know, you can change your story, you can change your reality. And what was dropping in for me, it was making me giggle. This person I used to be around always used to tell me, like, who made those rules? Whose rules are those anyway? Like, I didn't agree to those rules. Did you agree to those rules? Like, you know, and it's
100%.
so true. Like, do we actually even have that approach? Like, question yourself, question your thoughts, question do I believe this? Do I buy into this? Do I want to? How is this impacting me? Does it feel good? Does it feel true? Is it something that is, I'm just doing it because I feel like I have to, right? Like, question all of it. And you may find out, like, oh, I love this. This
Yeah,
is great.
absolutely.
This adds to my reality, or this is exactly what I want, or hey, this makes me comfortable, or this makes me feel safe, right? Like, it can be anything.
Absolutely. And the more you question it, the more you'll start to understand where your beliefs actually lie, you know. But always remember a belief just because it's set within us is not set in stone, right? And that coming back to Bruce Lipton, like he is an amazing man. If you do not know who Bruce Lipton is, you need to go and Google and research this man because he has been telling people about this since the 70s. He's been excluded from freaking medical communities because they didn't want to believe what he had found out. Because guess what? That kind of ruins people's, perceptions of how the world actually works or the medical systems in both Canada and the US, right? I mean, there's a lot there that would jeopardize a lot that some of these people have, right? So of course it makes sense that they'd be fearful of it. But we're at a point in the world now where people are asking for truths for self. People are seeking information because a lot of us know there's got to be something more to this. How can you not cure cancer after how many bloody years of research? Like it doesn't make sense, right? And this is where all that questioning. So you question everything around you, you question the governments, you question the medical systems. Why the hell wouldn't you want to question your own beliefs within self then? Because if you're questioning the beliefs of what's been set out for years and years and years out in society, that means, there's probably beliefs within ourselves that, yes, like you said, can be very helpful. But at the same time, maybe there's something there that you're seeing, there's something here that I'm pretty sure could be easier, right? Or it can't be this hard all the time. Like, why does it have to be all this hard all the time? That was a big one for me. I used to get myself a lot of trouble for when I was a kid. I used to question things like a lot, and people hated me for it sometimes because they didn't have answers for me, right? They only knew what their own belief was, and they weren't willing to challenge that for themselves. But the other point is they didn't really know how to answer me in general because I was asking questions of why, right? And
Yeah.
nobody was really able to give me the reason of something different. And I remember being a kid once, and I finally said funny that we were just talking about schooling before we got on here, biology and chemistry and all this stuff, and there was some set out rule that I remember my teacher saying, and I said, "Well, whoever made that rule?" And she said, "Oh, well, it came from such and such." And I said, "But why did they make that rule?" And she goes, "Oh, I'm not really sure. That's a really good question. Let me go and look into it." She comes back to me a week later and she says, "You know what? You're right. That rule is pointless. There is nothing behind that rule." And so in which we will not use that rule going forward, right? She was probably one of the only people that was like actually willing to look into things if she could for me, which was great. But that comes back to that questioning. And then it brought back to myself after a while. And I thought, why does money have to be so hard to make? Why does a living have to be so hard to make? And that is a big one for a lot of us. Um, that's where that saying, the rich stay rich and the poor stay poor, because it's a mindset and it's a thought process that's being taught. So if you come
Yeah.
from a family that doesn't make much, well, there's a high chance you're getting those same beliefs.
Well, I mean, work hard, right? Like we're told you need to work hard, and from the moment we're in school, we're programmed into work hard. And how many people? Money doesn't grow on trees. Like how many people heard that growing up, right? And yeah, it's so prevalent out there. And I did just want to circle back around to one thing real fast.
Yeah, of course.
So as we're there, it's important to do research however you do research, because we live in the age of information. The information is at our fingertips. You have access to multiple sources. So it's like, if you're finding biased information, like you have the ability to go outside the lines and search. You have to be intentional about doing that. But it's like, as humans, our brains are hardwired for our survival. So that is what part of what comes into this too. Is like, this is why you need to question, because am I operating from a place of survival because I'm afraid of the unknown, or this role takes me into the unknown? Because when we were cavemen, if you left the cave and you went into the unknown, you likely died. Like that's a legit thing that our brain and our species is hardwired for. And it's like, it goes back that far. There are these reasons why we are this way. And why we've created the realities that we've created, which have served us. Our survival served us individually and collectively. It's like, we're just saying, now you have an opportunity to start questioning that. Is this still serving me? Is this the reality I want to live in? Do I want to move forward like this? Okay, great. Well, if it is, fine. If it's not, how do you change that? You change that by starting with your thoughts, becoming aware of your thoughts.
And the other piece of it is remembering, it was all for a reason. We needed the survival mode at some point, right? But where we're at now in the world, and where Mother Earth has chosen to take herself, is in a very, very different place of a vibrational frequency. So in which she's kind of asking all of us as a human collective, can you upgrade in your own thought processes and understanding you are the true creator in your own world, to be able to continue to evolve as a human collective as well on this planet? Everybody, they have some good analogies today. They showed me this quick flash of like, way back when, like 2014 or something like that, someone said the world was going to end, and everybody thought, oh, that's it. This is it for us. We're going to get taken out like the dinosaurs did or something with the asteroid. It's all just going to be done and over. But thinking back on how many people actually believe that the world very well may just end at that point in time. Like, again, that's that collective of belief. But now there was an event that actually happened in 2012. And it was an event of meditation and people coming together as a collective. And actually, it's been known to me through some meditations and stuff that spirit, the universe, source, God, whatever your word is, they were actually quite surprised at how fast the scales actually tipped in 2012, because there was a collective of humans that came together and chose to see the world very differently and start creating something very different in their own life, but also as a collective. And they had this epiphany almost of understanding that the world is really changing, and that at some point very soon, we are all going to have to start getting on this boat and start understanding how our thoughts create our reality, because that's also part of our journey here. We've come here to learn and understand that for ourselves in a 3D body, a physical body here, that we can still be impressive creators, even in the physical realities, right? So it's very interesting because, and again, we did make a little video and episode on time and perceptions. I believe that was actually our first one. It comes a little bit back again there to even understanding how thoughts create your reality, because the aspect of time almost feels different when you start to understand how that's working. You look back and it's like, oh, wow, okay. But you're almost looking back and it's like, it might have been 10 years ago, but it's like you could almost remember it so clearly because you're seeing all of the different aspects of it and how it kind of came together. And then the next time you might try to remember it and it's not the same, or it's not there, right? So again, it's like that difference of understanding. It's okay. You're not crazy. It just happens when you start to understand how that thought process is actually creating physical reality as well.
And this is, and I think this is why a lot of people kind of will hesitate when getting into these topics, right? Because it can feel a bit like the ground is shaking and a bit jarring when it's like you're hopping timelines and you realize there's no time. You're going, oh my God, I'm creating my reality. I was laughing when you said 2012 because I was about 20 when we did year 2K and the world, the world was gonna explode and
Yes.
like, it's just it's funny, right? Like we talk about the Mandela effect and how they're trying to change history right in front of our eyes. Like I'm old enough to remember when Berenstain Bears was different and to remember Curious George like he did or didn't have a tail and the Shazam movie and all of these different things that they talk about, right? Like
Oh, you know what? I didn't
I
even realize that, but I'm like, what are you talking about? Yeah, I remember all those, but that's 100% right. I've seen bits and pieces of that trying to be changed. Sorry, total interruption, but that was my own light bulb.
well, it's definitely a thing and so will like I this is just coming up because you're like you're not crazy, like you're not crazy, like that stuff is actually happening because that's how much of our reality is not solid. It's all just energy. It can be changed. Your reality can be changed and it's changed by your thoughts, the super technology of your brain, of your body, that you are here as a soul gifted to be in this biophysical human form that is miraculous, it is magic, it is amazing. And we get to tune in to all of our team out there to have all this guidance. And the more you understand how the technology works and surrendering into knowing that, right? That's that transition into being this powerful co-creator that you mentioned.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm not gonna lie, it can be uncomfortable, right? It's like if y'all have ever watched The Matrix, okay, I'm gonna say there's pieces in The Matrix that are very real and to some extent. It's just sometimes like I like movies or like Doctor Strange. I love Doctor Strange for that time aspect and those things because like I'm a visual person sometimes. So to have those pictures for myself, like it just makes sometimes more sense. So if you're a super visual person, like go and watch some movies. I'm not saying they happen exactly like that, but the concept behind it is very similar to, people trying to make sense sometimes of what this greater thing is. And the reason why it's also called an awakening a lot of the time is because you wake up to a lot more than what's just kind of been given to you as this program. And it can be very jarring and it can be really uncomfortable because there are times where, you might feel like I don't even know really what's going on, like it's like I'm having troubles conceptualizing or making this a logical thing for myself. And that's where I would say to you, stop trying then, because you're not ever going to fully, as human, we are not ever going to fully understand, every single bit to this because our science is not quite there yet. Let's just really put that up there because it's not quite to that extent. Yes, there's a lot out there to now start proving that thoughts create reality. We know that. But there's also a lot more to it that they haven't discovered yet about the energetic side of this. So if you're feeling like, holy shit, you guys just gave me a lot of information, I'm feeling pretty overwhelmed, where I'm not going to apologize for it, but I am going to say it's okay to stop this or take a moment or like come back and listen to, the other pieces of it or come back and listen to it a couple times because this is pretty loaded with some pretty awesome information, but it can be pretty overwhelming if this is something new for you. So take what's resonating now, leave what doesn't, as usual. But it is a very interesting concept when you start to see it in your own life, because then all of a sudden, when you get the brain gets the proof, right? Because we all like proof and validation. The brain is always wanting a bit of that. You will then start to understand and become more comfortable with the concept as well. But you can then say, wow, I really don't like these reoccurring things. Okay, so they're dropping in relationships on me because this tends to happen quite a bit in relationships, I find that somebody will be in a relationship, it doesn't work out, whatever happens. And yet the next person comes and it's like almost a freaking identical repeat of what a previous relationship might have been. And this is a pretty good sign to say that there's some kind of thought or belief within self that is creating these and bringing in these same type of people. So if it's something you wish to change and having a different experience with somebody, relationship, job, whatever it could be all those. You gotta go inwards and find out where your beliefs are lying in self and why you're creating these people or these same kind of people to show up in your reality. But it gets uncomfortable because usually there's parts of ourselves that we have to acknowledge. But once you let it go, also please be prepared that you're going to receive something that you're not used to. Do not run away just because it shows up at the door and it seems too good to be true, because that's often what happen, I find, with people as well. And I said, well, did you give them a chance? Well, no, I couldn't find a red flag. I just had to go, right? It's just not my place. And you get uncomfortable because the body goes, wow, this is not normal for us. You gotta give yourself some time too, right? So the playing with that, I mean, don't go ahead and play with relationships where you have to get go. That's probably not the greatest example, but I think it was the easiest one that they dropped in for me to show like that big difference that someone would probably understand quite easily, I guess. So
yeah, and they're bringing in a visual. It's interesting because I mentioned this podcast to you earlier. So first of all, this is just a little bit of a visual from some information that was brought in, and I'm going to give credit where credit's due. So this was with on a podcast with Phil Good and Lori Ladd, and they were channeling these non-physical beings. And so you can imagine, like, you have your own room in a warehouse and you're playing ping pong. Okay. So when you're in relationship, you have to have another player to play ping pong with. Right. And as we're going through our evolutionary process, we're playing ping pong with these various people. Well, the object is to get into the next warehouse and play Pac-Man, not to stay and play ping pong. But when you're repeating your patterns, it doesn't matter. You can change who the other player is, but you're still there playing ping pong. And you can choose to put the ping pong paddle down, but you're still in the ping pong room. And at some point, you got to pick that paddle back up and play ping pong. You can hit the ball off the table, that's fine. But some point, somebody's going to go get that ball and pick it up. And it's in that waiting period when you're doing the work and you're in this waiting period, like you really have to trust, lay the paddle down, lay the ball down, and just stay there. Don't choose another partner. Just do your work by yourself in the ping pong room and stay there and wait, because there is, like, your body is also programmed in these particular ways, right? You spoke about, like, there's no red flags, so it's too good to be true. Like, your body is used to responding in certain ways chemically. And so there's this time period. There's this, these changes, these physical changes that have to happen in the technology of your body to catch up with the fact that your consciousness has moved to the Pac-Man room. Now your body needs to teleport to the Pac-Man room too. So
totally.
that's a fun visual.
I love that visual. That made me giggle. What a great one on that. That was fantastic. Thank you so much for giving that one, because I loved it. The other piece too, they're making me very aware again of something. The super cool part, is like, yes, I do this for a living. Of course, I love the shit out of what I do. But what I also find super cool and fascinating is I'm constantly learning as well. Like there's always new things or tidbits that come to me and I'm like, oh, wow, that's really interesting. And one of those was the fact that everybody thinks everything comes from the mind. That the mind is the congregator. The mind is like, the soldier that sends out all the troops, but it's actually not. He's the mind, that little fella, he is just the in-betweener, man. And he's just trying to figure out how to get your higher self-consciousness, whatever you want to call it, and your body connected in a way that makes sense to the rest of you as a human being. And that can get a lot of mixed neural pathways with those beliefs that are set within us. So where and which do you think your thoughts really come from? They are a mixture between your higher self and your higher being, or whatever you want to call it, and your physical body that's trying to interpret that energy, that flow, and come back up into the brain and say, okay, this is what's going on. But if you've got beliefs there that are blocking, or there's something, set there that we've always seen, let's go back to the money one, because the money one's easy. Money's hard to make. You didn't grow up rich, so you're not ever going to be rich. That was actually something that was said to me a few times when I was a kid, and I was like,
or that's not for you.
Yeah,
like that's
too
people.
big. Yeah, it's too big. Don't even think about like that realm. And it's like those things, right? And it can be sad to children, you know, and we think and we want to have these big dreams, and it kind of feels like someone's coming and pushing them down into the ground. And then eventually we adopt those beliefs, because it's the same thing as anything. You hang around with somebody long enough to use a certain word, you'll likely start using the same word, right? Because it's like this vibrational rub off almost, and beliefs are no different from the time we're a child.
Well, there's also the energetics behind it, right? So, like, even with the money thing, like, there's a shame level too. Like, who do
Oh,
you think
totally.
you are to have something different than what we had? Like, and we get to have compassion, but we also get to go, okay, that's not mine. Like,
Yeah,
I'm choosing
absolutely.
differently.
And I mean, all of us would like to change usually our money beliefs, right? Because money kind of right now still runs the world in a way. And we get it. So we're not saying this is going to like poof and be all gone and done with, but it doesn't have to be as hard as what it's been made to be, especially if you grew up, you know, just like that, with all these things kind of being thrown at you and all this energetic states of, and the thing about it too is we as children, all of us, every single one of us have this light within us as children, right? And we are naturally more connected to higher frequencies. That's where imagination comes from. That's why we were so good at creating when we're little, because we are not kind of cut off from those types of vibrations. But as we grow up, and these heavier vibrations and the duality exists, all for good reason, but it does kind of start to quander that part of ourselves, you know, as a child, to say, oh, well, maybe being an adult's not so great. You know, this is all this energy that just continually seems to be thrown around here. And so we do just adopt these beliefs. And a lot of the time they're so hidden that a lot of people don't even necessarily believe or realize they're there. A lot of us know we have money beliefs. That's why they bring it up, and it's easier for us to use as examples. But another one of mine was just not even being worthy of like having or doing what I want here, because that also came from, you know, aspects of childhood. And so I'm not blaming my parents or blaming anybody on that one. You know, it's just they can only do as good as they can do. But that was mine, right? And so for me, I really had to get down to the nitty gritty and the dirty to find out exactly what all that was about.
Yeah, and just circling back around to when you were saying how like we're putting a lot out there right now, like if you want to take a deep dive in this, you can reach out to either of us and we can take you on a super deep dive and we can help you reprogram and do all the things. So we got it. So for me, like another element of this is it's not fully like, okay, yes, people programmed us, like they projected their beliefs on, they put it in our field and we accepted that. There's another piece to that like as children we had experiences, and as you said, we were trying to make sense of them. And so we actually as children assigned meaning. And so one that was big for me was I don't matter. And so if I didn't matter and my thought was, I don't matter, I literally had experiences where it was like I wasn't matter. I wasn't seen. Literally, people would see through me like I wasn't there. So, I mean, it goes very deep. It can touch a plethora of topics, and it's like, what you make matters. If you believe it's hard to make, then the money is hard to make. Like you can start playing with this in a fun way. You don't have to dive into some like serious, heavy, deep stuff. Like if you want to start with money, then just like start with something like believing that money is easy to make. The problem is your body has already believed that money was hard to make for a long time. So there is a process. This is why a lot of people, The Secret didn't work for a lot of people when that was really popular, because it's like you can affirm and you can make positive beliefs all you want, but if you don't really dig in and get to the bottom and the root of what that is to reprogram, like your body's not going to get on board with the new belief. But the good thing is, like, you all have a team and you all have guides and you all can ask for help, there in your energetic reality. And there's so many coaches out there too, and people like Dayna and I to help and assist you as well. So it gets to be fun and easy to start with. Don't assume like you have to take some crazy hard deep dive.
No, absolutely not. And the more proof your brain gets, the easier it will be to then address some of the bigger things. But I am not going to lie, you probably won't find the bigger things on your own. Like There was things brought to my attention from my own coach and mentor that I would have never found by myself, because also the pain and suffering, I guess, I kind of laid behind it was something that I didn't really want to open the door to either. And many of us don't, for good reason, right? Our body's trying to protect us, and or you know, our brains are trying to protect us and saying, oh, don't open that door. That one hurts a little too much, right? But that's the other piece of it, is like, you can do a certain amount on your own, but at some point, if you really want true change in like massive different directions in your physical reality, you will have to address the bigger ones underneath. And I'm telling you, just sought out somebody you resonate with to help you do that, because don't try and do it on your own, because there's a high chance you'll try and you'll scare yourself, or something will happen with an experience behind it that you won't want to open that door again. And then you kind of will fall back into that old programming, right? Because it kept you safe. And there's nothing wrong with it. You know, it kept you safe for good reason when it happened, but a lot of the times it's not serving many of us anymore. So again, that comes back to the thoughts creating your reality, right? If you're falling back into the same program, you're finding yourself kind of back in the same loops. Well, you definitely know that there's definitely not still something hanging out there and lingering, right? That needs to go. But I do really suggest that if it is something or deeper work you want to do, or if you're frustrated because this is not the first time you've done this, not the first time you've heard of it, maybe you've been in it for a while, and you're at that point where you're just like, I just can't figure out like why this won't change, or I'm trying, but I'm not finding it. If you're not finding it, it's probably a big, deep one that's kind of way at the bottom of the dungeon, is what I like to call it, that somebody is probably gonna have to shine the light on for you before you'll actually be able to dig it up and you know, close that door officially. So it's a process, and don't ever forget there's no end game to this. This is a process, because even when you start to understand your thoughts create reality, yes, does life get more fun? Absolutely, it sure does. It gets a lot less stressful too, because now you know that it doesn't matter. You can be the kid in the sandbox with your toys and have the juice box and know that supper's going to be on the table when you come in. You know, it does get to be that point. But at the same time, there will always be challenges in life. There will always be things to learn from, always be things to come up from. So that's really funny, because I just made a little video the other night, actually, about reactions compared to responding. And I think a lot of that comes, you know, from understanding how your thoughts and your beliefs work. So I'm sure we'll make another episode at some point as well on response and reactions, because that's another big one, between understanding if you're reacting, like instant reactions are always a sign to say there's some kind of old programming taking place there. And if the reaction is good, great, don't worry about it. But if it's something negative or heavy, that's your body trying to say that there's an old program still taking place here. So if you really don't know, or you weren't really aware of your thoughts, but you caught your reaction, that's a good sign to say, just kind of reflecting on what you were just thinking about in that situation, or why it triggered you, will also help for you to be able to switch up that and change it. Money belief, I'm going to put out there right now. They want to make this a very firm boundary and understanding for many, that it is not one that changes super fast a lot of the time, unless you're willing to go really deep and get that root out of there. It will change pretty quick. I won't lie, like my entire life in 1 year changed very, very, very fast, but I also went all in on myself. I stood in my ping pong room by myself, and I chose to do the work that I needed to do to get me into the Pac-Man and beyond for myself, right? And so that's the other part of it as well. You may very well just have to go through parts of your journey by yourself. That's just all there is to it, and that's okay. But if you really want true change in your life, parts of it may very well just have to be done by yourself. Or you may find friends and family just kind of dropping off your radar. They are not going to resonate with you anymore if they're not going to be able to reach you on the scale that you're choosing to move up to. So have no guilt, people. Like, just don't feel guilty about choosing that for yourself. And remember, as you choose it and change it, your reality will change, yes, but the vibration around you also changes to help others that may be associated with you, that you may even meet on the street. Energy is extremely powerful. And as we've mentioned already, in our last episode with surrender, it is powerful energies right now on earth of amplification. So if you're choosing to do the work, that's just going to amplify to everybody else around you as well.
Right. And I do just want to mention around people dropping off, friends, having a community, all of that stuff, that is all thought and belief driven as well.
Totally.
And when we talk about responsibility, you may or may not have heard this, but responsibility is literally just your ability to respond.
Which is
To
like
have a
so perfect, because it's so
Yeah.
true.
Yeah, and so, I mean, you get to respond. You have an ability to respond instead of react, period. Always. Um, so anyway, did you have anything else? I feel like we're wrapping it up.
We definitely are wrapping it up because they're like, whoop, stop.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it is the truth. So really, I feel like this is kind of the other pillar, to understanding your foundation. And it comes to surrender, self-awareness, and thoughts create your belief. And we have now made an episode on all of those. So if you haven't heard the other ones, go check them out. We got them up on our pages. And that's the fun part about this is we get to talk about a lot of topics, but really trying to keep, it to topic. So it doesn't have to go in an order by any means. You can jump around. Come back and listen to this one though. I really do suggest to come back and listen to this one, maybe a couple times, different times, because I guarantee you're going to get something different out of it every single time, which is the best part. I can't tell you how many different podcasts I've listened to and been like, oh, hey, oh, wow. Or it's like a movie you watch for the first time and you go back and watch it again. You're like, wow, how did I miss that much shit? Like I'm finding that much more out of it, right? It's the same kind of feeling, definitely with this episode, particularly because there is so much to this. But I'm super excited to, see what else we come up with. And thank you all for being here. And yeah, community. Again, we're working on our community. So keep an eyeball out for that. Follow us on our social media pages. That's the best place to find out when we're going to drop things, I would say, is social media pages. Hey.
Yeah, and you can also catch me on my website. It's Dayna Grace, so Dayna Dayna Grace.com. I'm not sure what your website is, but
It's mine. It's DaynaWhitney.com. So we will have all these links though within our profile that you guys can find to contact us if you want to, have conversation or work with either of us. There is links in there for all of that as well. So we hope to catch you on the next episode, and thank you for joining us on this one.
thank you.